Welcome to the Octagon. As you can tell, this table is an octagon shape if you can't tell the names are. Okay, so today we're going to discuss on the 1860 election.
From NBC News in Washington, meet the press.
Today, here we have Lincoln. He's a liberal. And we also have John C. Breckinridge. He's a conservative. And we're going to ask them what their ideas are on slavery, sectionalism, and national states' rights. Let's get started. So, the first issue we're going to talk about is slavery, since it's one of the major issues during this time period. And so, Breckinridge, since you're a conservative, I was wondering, what's your idea on slavery?
Well, for the first part, slavery is bad, as I did attend this convention for an abolitionist during my years as a senator. However, in response with the South's continuation of slavery, I do not believe that slavery is a bad thing, as the positive effects to the nation is actually more beneficial to the nation as a whole than just through individual morality of individuals. Of course, it's bad in sense towards the belief of God, but however, the personal happiness of one Southerner should be not undermined, as a Southerner actually helps the nation as a whole better than a slave would. And I do not go against slavery, as in, if they somehow brought up themselves and become economic prosperous by themselves, that's fine. Thank you.
Interesting. Very interesting points you are making there. What do you think, liberal Lincoln?
I believe that slavery is a grave, grave injustice upon the very Constitution which we framed our very nation upon. The very concept of slavery goes against the fact that all men are created equal, and that the very republicanism that we built this great and glorious nation upon is defiled and revolted by this fact. The founding fathers would be ashamed of the state that we are currently in because of something as simple as slavery. Slavery is morally unjust. No one should be considered less than a person. No one should be considered property, not even given the proper advantages of a person. In the Constitution, or in the Declaration of Independence, it says we are imbued with the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Tell me, do slaves have happiness? Are they considered people? If the answer to both of your questions are no, then you should reconsider the fact of why we have slavery in this very nation. Thank you.
Okay, so our second topic would be on sectionalism, since it is a major issue during this time. North and South, very conflicting issues. Breckinridge, what are your views on sectionalism? What do you think?
In regarding the question of sectionalism, of course I agree that the Union must be the absolute top priority here. But what I'm going to say is that the problem with sectionalism is the difference between the North ideology of slavery and the South ideology of slavery. But first of all, I would like to point out that in the Constitution, it gives the states its rights to choose whatever it wants, according to the popular sovereignty that we pass as constitutional. It states that a state can choose whether they are either free or a slave state. In the case of Kansas, it was chosen to be a slave state. However, I don't agree with the North's admission to change this forcefully upon the South. Of course, I support the Constitution as much, and if you support the Constitution, you can neither be called a disunionist or a sectionalist person.
Great points you're making there, Breckinridge. How about you, Lincoln? What are your views on sectionalism?
I also agree with my good Sir Breckinridge here. The Union must be the top priority of our nation. No matter what the circumstance, the Union comes before the good of everything. The people, the government, we must preserve the Union. That is our core foundation. However, I also believe that the government should be a vital part in protecting our Union as it is right now. We need to have a strong enough government so that things like sectionalism won't be brought up again in a different time. On the topic of popular sovereignty, it is akin to allowing slavery into the free slates. If they are given the option to choose, and a large mass of southerners rush into the northern and free states, they could very easily turn the elections and vote slavery as legal in these states.
Very interesting points you guys are making there, Breckinridge and Lincoln. Now, Rudolph, what do you think about their statements?
To point out, John C. Breckinridge had so many flaws. His points are absolutely ludicrous. For real, talking these points about how slavery is not really the problem, it is the problem concerning the unity of this nation. I mean, for the first part, the founding fathers put it in our Declaration of Independence that says all men are able to pursue happiness. Dude, these slavery are not men. Are they boys? Are you consider them boys? I consider them men, as all men have the rights to pursue whatever happiness they want. And also another flaw with Breckinridge's arguments is that he's arguing that states' rights is states' right is the bound principles of the Constitution. But has he not realized the Constitution is to make the centralized government more stronger in that so there will be no rebellion? This is exactly why the Constitution needs to be upheld to protect to dissolve this immoral sin that the United States has developed over 100 years. Thank you.
Very interesting points you make there, Rudolph. How about you, Frosty? What are your views?
I think that what Abraham Lincoln currently is uttering is nonsense. We should keep slavery in the Union. This is vital to how the South runs its government and its economy as it is right now. As is, if slaves did not run the Southern economy, we would instantly go bankrupt. And who is to go against King Cotton? You cannot possibly think that with your feeble economy and the foreign influence we can exert, that you can just simply remove slavery.
I see, Lincoln. See your points there. Alright, so now, Lincoln, Breckinridge, do any of you guys have any closing statements? Let's start with Breckinridge first.
Okay, so I, as John C. Breckinridge, would like to state that is slavery so important enough that you would try to dissolve the Union just because of the idea that slavery is immoral? What I'd like to say is that, would you prefer to fight over slavery if it will cause the nation to split apart? I, as a Southern Democrat, would like to say that it's not that important enough. Let's look at the real problem here first and keep the Union preserved as soon as we can. So that way we could avert the sectionalism that's happening and keep everyone happy. Thank you.
Really nice closing statement you got there. Now how about you, Lincoln? Let's hear your closing argument.
Thank you all for being here today. And for my closing remarks, I will say that, remember, the Union is the utmost priority of our great nation. We must preserve the Union. Slavery and all of these sectionalist bastards may desire for us to ruin and split apart this great and glorious nation. And while slavery is a vital issue that we must discuss, I will not support it in any shape or fashion. It is a direct violation of the very beliefs that we ground this nation in. Thank you.
Alright, so thank you folks for joining us at the octagon. It's an octagon-shaped table. It's late, tired, go home. I want to thank Lincoln for showing up today. I want to thank Breckinridge for showing up today too, and